before we start, a bit about me. So I am Sumit. I am currently working at HCL Tech, two times fast track architect, and my current roles and responsibilities are I'm an engagement director at HCL Tech. I also run a lot of community with my fellow Bristol members with Dan and Adrian. So I'm a chapter lead for Southwest User Group as well. Here are my credentials. If anybody has any question, feel free to reach out. So we will cover a bit of intro about the Copilot Studio and also talk about newly minted agents and what does it mean, what has changed, and I'll show you how do you publish those agents to SharePoint, and then a bit of a demo as well, just to show you. Again, apologies, some terminologies have changed since I last looked at it. I tried changing. I mean, the funny thing is, I had a session after the keynote and realized I'm referring a wrong terminology. So in the hotel in the 11 o'clock in the night, I was basically going every single place. And again, people who are looking at this and who have worked in this, what was called as Power Virtual Agent, it became Copilot Studio, Copilot. Now we are back to agents, but this is not a new thing. It's basically has become much more better. It's end-to-end SaaS, and the idea from Microsoft is
Yeah.
it's not just going to be pure conversational led. It was also going to be agent led. What that means is you basically can, delegate some of the responsibilities. Like say, if you receive an email or stuff, it can pretty much act on your behalf. So you no longer have to be just pure conversation. That's why I think the agent name is coming into play, and pretty much everywhere we saw, I think there were a lot of sessions where people talked about it. And again, if you don't know about agents, so what are the spectrums is primarily the retrieval task and automation. That is the new thing, which is coming brand new. Um, Again, watch this space. Again, they are sort of doing a lot of early preview at this point in time, but it is much more better, and we are promised more functionalities are coming. So in terms of where they basically stand, again, nothing has changed from there. But what they're doing is they are basically making it a single pane of glass. So what that means is if you are coming from an M365 experience, earlier we had to do something like plugins and extensions. So what they're doing is they are tightly integrating directly with the Copilot Studio. So you can go to M365, which they're calling as BizChat for some reason. So there, if you create an agent, it basically opens up in a Copilot Studio. So what that means is basically more power to Copilot Studio. It is being, streamlined all across the board. Any Copilot that you do today would basically be extended by the Copilot Studio. And again, all those functionalities that were there, bot framework, if you want to extend beyond, you have Azure AI Studio as well. So all those firepowers are still there, but it's just this new functionality about agents working on your behalf. I think that is quite an interesting space. Now, again, crux of my talk is about Copilot and SharePoint because everybody who's working in this space have seen that most of the organization data actually resides in SharePoint. So currently, there's no out of the box. Again, they have promised a lot again in the Power Platform conference that is going to be very easy for anyone who's working in that space. Basically, click of a button. I'll probably show you some of the screenshots because it is not available today. But the idea is if you are in SharePoint, you can pretty much spin up the Copilot from then and there without actually going outside SharePoint, which I think is a very good experience. It will enable people who traditionally are very M365 focused or a citizen dev focused. So they don't have to do much, all those grounding to the native SharePoint authentication, all these will be handled. So I feel that this will open a lot of use cases around SharePoint and Copilot. So moving ahead, and in terms of building agents, again, I'm calling agent because that's the terminology if you are watching this now. So what they uncovered at the Power Platform conference is like when you spin up any SharePoint site. So if you are like a citizen dev or you as an organization don't want to invest in extending the Copilot, you can leverage the agent that comes inbuilt. So what will happen is when you spin up a site, you will see an icon for Copilot Studio then and there. And when you click on it, they call it as agents there. So what that means is you don't, you just have to point for every site, it will automatically have an agent. So you can ask all those Q&A, any content that you have on SharePoint site, those all would be done without actually doing any groundwork. So that is one experience. There's another experience which they call it as custom agent, where you can take the agent that is available. So what happens is every site will get a default agent, and then you have the flexibility to create brand new agents as well. And what would happen in this case is you can extend it further. You can add a lot of actions in it. It's like, say, for example, you're on a SharePoint site, but you want to extend your knowledge to Dataverse or ServiceNow. So you can still do all of that. And again, within the boundaries of SharePoint alone. So the advantage here of doing the Copilot within SharePoint is they are in a familiar space. They are in the safe space where they've traditionally been working on collaboration, editing side. So you no longer have to go to a Teams chat or they have to go to a web browser. So Microsoft is bringing that experience right within SharePoint. Now, again, our focus today is looking how you can do today, because these two features that I've said about built-in agent and custom agent, they're all in private preview. You can't actually do that. But people who want to try that, I think there is a private preview registration going on. So if you try this, like try Copilot SharePoint, you based on your luck, based on where it sits in the backlog, you might get an access. But today, if you want to try that, I will show you a very pro code solution, which I think is now being made no low code, hopefully with these private preview. Now, I'll just talk about how you can do it. Again, these are the screenshot. This is when we'll get this in a public or probably GA. So this is the experience would be like, say, this is the example they quoted in build. And again, some of the demo sessions have been at Power Platform Conference. They were suggesting the same thing. So if you have a SharePoint site called Delivery Drone Launch, then on the right hand side, if you pay attention, you can see this Copilot button in there. So what this is your delivery drone, built-in agent, and you can extend a little bit. Like you can add, your starter prompt. You can customize what it spins up. But the idea with this is like people who are in a low code space, citizen dev, or an administrator from a company, they just want to enable it because they just want this to surface information directly from SharePoint, like all the contents from SharePoint, all the documents from the SharePoint. They can do all of that without actually doing any customization. So this is good. The next experience is the custom agents. So again, this was demoed in one of the keynotes as well. Like if you want to take it further, like you don't want to use the default agent that comes with SharePoint, what you can do is go to the SharePoint page and suppose if you have bunch of documents in there and you want to base your Copilot just to surface those information. So you can select all of that. Then there's a button here called click to agents. So what will happen is, again, with the magic of the button, Copilot will spin up and then you can customize it further. And if you want to customize it further to, like, say, some of these queries that you have are related to ServiceNow or Salesforce, you can pretty much use that for Copilot Studio to do it. So they're making it easier and simpler to use, and it saves your time because you don't have to do all the grounding. And it is much more, I just saw a couple of notes from Henry that it is now going to support up to like 512 MB size, each file and stuff. So they are investing a lot in this space. So watch out for these SharePoint agents. Now, this is the experience I wanted to talk to you about today, because there was no solution there, and I found there was a Microsoft article that one of the principal program manager did. So the idea is it is simulating the same experience in a pro code way. So what I have is basically a page where I have a button called Chat with HR. So when you click on this, the Copilot basically spins up. and then you can pretty much do what the native experience will do. Again, there's a link there I've put, and again, all of this is based on the one of the guy called Dwayne Robinson. He's doing a lot of good work in this space. So again, watch out his video. And again, I've also copied few links in a QR code. So if you are looking into what has changed in Copilot Studio, can scan this link and you'll probably find a lot of information there. So again, coming to my use case that I'm gonna demo today, the way the whole thing stands. Again, people who are coming from an architecture hat here, what happens is we have a concept called SPFX, which people who have worked in a SharePoint space, they might know this. So what we are doing is basically we are building an SPFX component and then deploying in the SharePoint site. And what happens behind this is like under the cover is there is something called as Microsoft Direct Line API. I think this is the API which is responsible for Copilot Studio to understand what tokens are being exchanged. So there is a component, again, this is all there in GitHub. So I leverage that component. And in that component, there is a MSAL library, which basically, because if you look at it, like you are in a SharePoint, so you're pretty much authenticated with your credentials. So what this library is doing is basically getting that token from Intra ID and then passing it on to the Copilot. So it's like, hey, I have already authenticated. Here are the tokens. So this is how, since it is embedded in a SharePoint page, it leverages those credentials and it spins up. And then on top of it, if you want to add your knowledge, for example, it will surface information from a document. It can surface information from any external site. So this is what I wanted to show you today. Hopefully, I should be able to just check my ServiceNow credentials. And again, in terms of high-level implementation steps, again, this is quite heavy. So I spent a lot of time figuring it out. But if you want to try it today, go to this GitHub link. It basically has all the steps, but on a very high level. The idea is you configure the intra-ID authentication for the agent. Then you register your SharePoint site as a custom canvas. You can download and configure. Again, all of this could be done with that GitHub link. But if you do all the plumbings, which is, as I explained in the previous slide, of basically passing on the credentials, you should be able to do that. Again, don't want to go through all these links, but I'll just quickly flash. But before you get started, you probably need some components like Node.js, Visual Studio Code. You need all the admin access. So you basically need all the admin credentials today to actually work with that pro code component I talked about. Now, again, some of these are very, simple. People who have done a lot of app registration, you have to go and create a SharePoint SSO auth. You'll have to copy all the client ID, client secret. So you have to do some of that. And again, all of this is based on graph. So you'll have to make sure all of these, read all OpenID. Again, these are all documented. I don't want to spend my time here, but I'm just flashing you to make sure that you do all these steps, basically register all of that, get the scope. And then when you go to authentication, this is a key bit. Now, again, what Microsoft is now doing is they are making this native. So rather than going with the manual authentication, with this, what they are releasing in the private preview, it will all be done with Authenticate with Microsoft. Because what's happening today is SharePoint doesn't understand your context, whether you're logged in or not. So the way to do it is you do it manual, but you pass all the client ID, client secret that you've registered. So this hooks up the whole SharePoint to the, intra ID authentication, then whole thing works. And again, these are the, simple examples of how you do it. This is the important bit. If you want to try out the code, as I said today, all you have to do is go to that repo. There is a repo for Copilot Studio sample. So in that, you basically clone it. And these are the parameters like the bot URL, which explains what is a bot, what is the scope that you've already registered, all the client ID or authority. So you have to replace all of that to the bot that you want to bring it to the SharePoint. And once you have done that, then these are the steps. Again, people who have done PCF, they realize all these are command line parameters. They just build the entire thing and gives you a dump. And then With that dump, what you do is you basically go to the admin area because this is where you need the admin privileges. Then there's a section for manage apps and you upload the app. So what you're basically doing is you first change all the necessary parameters and then create a bundle and that you upload the bundle in SharePoint. So once you have done that, you are pretty much ready. And then what you can do is you can add those, bundle as an app. And then when you do that, what you get is a button. When you click on it, the Copilot basically spins. So this is what I wanted to show you. And again, what you can do further is in the SharePoint page, because this is acting as your repository, you can add all those documents, like you want your Q&A to be on. And then what will happen is it will pick up any details. So for example, I'll show you a site where I've uploaded a Microsoft sample with Northwind document. So again, if you ask any question about what are the different policy, what is cheaper, or it could be any details. Again, this is the normal Gen AI on SharePoint. That is, I think most of the people already know. But what I wanted to show you is how you can do that today. So at this point, I will try and see if my page is still working. Again, feel free to come on mute. I'm off mute and ask any question if you have, but I'll start showing you the page. So this is the HR site I've got. And in that, I already prepared a bundle and then uploaded it here. And as part of this, it basically gets a button. So when you click on it, it basically spins up the Copilot hair. And again, this is where you can pretty much chat with your experience. So in this case, this is your custom Copilot. I put all the instructions that I'm going to show you. But I just want to cover the SharePoint experience, and then I'm going to cover how you customize it. So you come in here, and again, this is pulling few information from ServiceNow and from SharePoint. So before you do anything, you basically have to, uh, you know, uh, you basically have to identify yourself because as you know with any connector it basically runs within the context of the user. So all I'm doing is basically providing that information here, and then what it will do is it will recognize me and say like, hey, how can I help you today? And these are the buttons I've customized in the Copilot Studio. So these are basically the quick replies. So what happens again, one of the best practices is once you log in, you probably want to direct users like on the FAQs that what this agent will be doing. So in this case, I'll just click on user profile information. So again, what it's doing behind the scenes is it is going to the service now and it is leveraging some of the information as an action. And then it is saying like, hey, this is your department, this is your this and that. And you can pretty much go in full circle again. You can test as many way you want. It will basically repeat yourself and then it will go to the Dataverse, it will go to the service now. So this is the experience from an end user. And it can, as you can see, like it is right within the SharePoint, and that's the beauty of it, right? You can pretty much be still in the SharePoint space and you can ask all these questions. So this is from user experience. So let me also take you to the Copilot here. So in terms of creating this demo and this, what I did is, again, people who are creating these agents, so again, some of the interfaces have changed since I last looked at it. But the idea is you can come in here and this is the Copilot here, and you can either start with a template or you can start with a new Copilot. You can pass on the instruction, it will leverage it for you. But I will show you what I have done and what I've learned as well while doing this. So there are so many customizations you can do. Like some of the good best practices would be to put a logo of what this is about. You provide a description as well, because sometimes I feel that there's a lot of hallucination in the Copilot because sometimes it get confused as to how it should respond. So it is quite important to provide those instructions because that helps Copilot, to determine where it needs. So in this case, I'm saying that this is a Copilot that will provide answers from SharePoint, but it can also do some task automation and some service. Now it will also go to database and do that. So, and how you want your tone to be, you can put all of that as an instruction. So that is quite helpful. Next thing I want to talk to you about is the knowledge. Again, Microsoft has invested a lot on this. So one of the experiences, like say, if you want to have your files that you want Copilot to use to answer it, so you can upload those files here, or if you have if you want to surface the information from SharePoint, so in this case, you can basically, again, I added couple of them because I was finding it, hallucinating where it is not understanding. Again, this experience is being fixed. You just have to put the root side there. Like in this case, this my SharePoint was NPT, so you provide the full link here, and then it will understand like it has to surface knowledge from here. And then you can also, as I said in my demo, I'll show you now from here because I also want to go to learn side. So you can add those public website as well as a knowledge. And then for Dataverse also you can add a knowledge. Again, if you have not tried it, when you click on add knowledge button, these are the available files. Again, they are adding much more bit here. So you not only can add the Dataverse file public site, they're also talking about a Fabric experience. People who are interested in Fabric, it is going to connect to that. There are other areas like ServiceNow knowledge you can add. You can add Oracle, so I added some of that here, but what I've been told is the experience apart from Dataverse file and this, it's not better for the graph-based one. So I also added few graph, and what I realized is this is not matured. Speaking to the product team, they're suggesting that this is gonna improve. Now, just a fun fact, right? So when you add a knowledge, what happens is every time you ask a question, it is going at that time to bring those information. So there is a lag there in providing these details. So for the fast query, that seems to be the right way. What Microsoft is recommending, like say if you have knowledge articles or things which are very static information, you no longer have to go and find it. The ideal way would be to add a graph-based connector. So in this case, you can go with graph with ServiceNow catalog, ServiceNow KV articles, and you can do all those confirmation in your Office 365 where you provide all the credentials and how it should connect. So for those slow-moving queries, it is recommended to leverage graph. But again, this is changing. The way it stands at the moment is your best bet is to go via the actions plugins or your flow to do that. But ideally, you will see that in coming months, this experience is going to get much better. So that is the knowledge part. Next thing I wanted to talk about is topics. Again, people who have looked at it, there are few topics that is must have to configure. So one experience is basically your conversational boosting. So this is where once, and this is again, you don't have to create it, but you can go here and check how this is configured. So in this case, you can go to the properties and you can see like what I'm saying is if I'm if I'm asking you a question which can't be surfaced, you basically go and use these knowledge also. So you pretty much only go to these sites. I don't want them to go to the internet and provide any answers. So I'm very specific about where it needs to pick these information, and this is where the knowledge bit shines. So you configure your knowledge first, and then you look at what topics, what actions you need to do. But this is something I would suggest is everyone to take a look at because there are scenarios you may not, because remember, we are in that Copilot era because earlier, if people who have worked in a Power Virtual Agent, we literally have to code all the conversational journey. So what Microsoft recommendation is you no longer have to do it. Again, for topics, if you want to have like full control of, how your experience would be, then only you go for that. So for that, what I've done in this here is basically created a topic because I wanted an experience. If somebody is asking me a question about a ticket, I want to only fire this up when somebody is asking about the incident number. So again, I wanted to have that control experience. Now, depending on your use cases, you could define topics, or you can use conversational boosting, and you do that, that will be better. Another thing I found was pretty interesting. So although I have the Dataverse connector here, which goes to the account and fetches the details, 9 out of 10 times it hallucinates. It doesn't give you the right answers. So the workaround for that is leverage the AI builder model. So this is another example. Again, I'll show you in action, but this is more theoretical. So what you can do today to handle that is, again, you define a topic, you provide all your instruction there, like when do you want this to. It's quite important, because if you don't do that, the Copilot will basically by default go to the knowledge and try to answer from there, or it will try to do a general knowledge again from the configured side. But in this case, I wanted this to go to Dataverse and ask a follow-up questions. So again, if you have not worked on prompt, hopefully this should open up in a prompt library. Yeah. So what I've done here is, again, I'm switching a lot of context. So if you guys want me to slow down, I will. But what I'm telling you is, you start from the beginning. You do the instruction, you do all the detailing, then you create the knowledge, then you go to topic. And again, if your topic is not powerful enough, there is an alternative way of use leveraging prompt. So in this case, what I found is this instruction is quite powerful because it is leveraging the AI model, which is far better than the Dataverse Q&A that they have released. Again, I understand this in preview, but today if I ask a question, um, and by default experience, if you try today, is like, give me the accounts. So if I have 20 accounts or 15 accounts or 10 accounts, it will say, it will only return like top two accounts, and then it will say you have more accounts to view, which is not a very good experience according to me. So what I found is, the scenarios where I want a very crisp answer, I'll leverage the AI builder model and pass on the right instruction, and then it will go and summarize it. So this is another way of doing that, which I found pretty good. Apart from that, again, the final one is the actions. Now, actions is quite new, um, because they have now changed this experience. So one thing you will see that, and this I figured out in a couple of months, is there would be some actions which will be triggered by Copilot automatically. So remember when I was asking question about, give me the details about my profile. So it understands this. So I don't have a topic defined for this. So Copilot is orchestrating this on their own based on the intent, and it is getting me all the details. But you can also do like scenarios where I want to chain it to the topic. So you can define all of that here, and this will be said like triggered by none. So what it means, it is dependent on the topic, and then here you can define all your parameters, how it, what are what is input, what is output. So it is quite powerful. You can pretty much configure some of these things. I've also added about weather as well. So you can chain all of that. You can define, details, instruction, knowledge, topic, and action. So let's try and review this. Okay, I'll probably restart it. And another tip is, you do the conversation map as on, so that you know what's happening. So what has happened first is, it has used the instruction. And again, if you have not tried it, you can go to your greetings. So this is where I have defined all of this, like this tool can handle that, and then it basically references it. So if I do that, it will basically use that to trigger what is there. And again, same exam question, it will first ask me about my thingy here, and I will provide that. And let's see what happens with this. So it has gone in here. Then next thing I'll ask about profile information. So hopefully it should show you that bit as well. Again, this is where demo got. Yes. So in this case, what I wanted to show you today is, look, I haven't defined any topic, and it basically, from my question, it pick up the intent, and in that action, I had all those connectors, and it has basically gone to the service now. Again, one tip here is leverage connectors where possible. I think that's a good experience. If your connector, for example, what I found was we were working with an organization, they had s- service now so heavily customized, we cannot leverage connectors, but we could do for a few things like get user, get incident. But we were also trying to create some catalogs, so which we could not do it. So the workaround for that is you leverage your custom connector, or you define your HTTP connector. So by using that, you can do it. But the idea is, you basically have asked question, it understood your intent, and it had fired on it basically fired the right action without actually defining topic. So that's also very a good way of orchestrating your copilot, where you can where you want Copilot to take control of your input and call the right action and give you the details. So this is about that. Again, I can go on and on about testing it, but yeah, John, you have a question?
Yeah, really good demo. I think the bit that I'm really struggling to understand
Hmm.
is the agent component, the agent part of it. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I understand. I think I understand.
yeah.
What it does, i.e., you give it context, and
Mm,
then it's going to use the connector of what if the connector's available and you're authenticated with that connector, then it's going to just use that connector, right? Is that
leverage. Yes.
okay? So what do you have to do in the background to ensure that all of your connectors are authenticated? Was that your Entra ID stuff that you were talking about earlier on?
Intra ID was just to hook the SharePoint with the Copilot. I think once that is hooked, that was not the part of it. I think
Okay.
what you are referring for is before you do that actually. So what happens is, say, in your Copilot experience, you have to connect to ServiceNow or Salesforce. So you
Yeah.
first have to do the standard connect. So what I've done
Right.
is
I got you.
I've
Okay.
created like ServiceNow connector and use the connection reference. And again, what happens again? One thing I realized is if you look inside the solution, it creates all these connection references for you, and it's basically telling that if you're asking me, that I'll probably use that ServiceNow connection that you already set up. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much similar to how we have been doing apps. It's just an abstraction layer on top where you have to do a lot of plumbing to do it. And what my Microsoft recommendation is, if I take you there, you basically define all of your, if you go here in action, and when you add an action, it basically gives you this. So for example, if I need any service now or something, you
Yeah.
type that out and then it will
So
basically.
you
So
so here it's here that you can use custom connectors and stuff like that.
yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So you have to
Okay.
again, you have to first go and do it outside in your solution. And as soon as you publish that, that will start appearing here. So
Yeah.
the idea is you still go to the solution, do all the plumbing. If you have any extensibility to different connectors, you do that, and then it
Yeah.
will start surfacing here.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Yeah. Any other question?
I'm sure Keith's got a question. He's always got a question.
Keith's had to go into a client meeting, I think. He's
Oh,
dropped off.
what?
Yeah.
Wow. That was really good. Really good, Sumit. Thank you very much.
No worries, no worries. I hope I was not very technical enough. I mean, funny thing is, when in my session, there were like 150 people registered. Only 80, 90 people turned up. And I
Yeah.
felt some of them were very M365 focused. And I was trying
Yeah.
to explain to them, like, you can watch all of these sessions in keynotes and stuff where people are talking about what is what. I want to talk to you about architecture and how you do it. And I think half of them didn't get that. So it was like no question. There was a couple of ladies who were asking me. So I thought, I don't know whether I went too technical or was it a fine blend. But happy to hear any feedback if you have.
I think that's the issue with the term Copilot, right? Because there's Copilot for Microsoft 365 and Office 365, and then there's Copilot Studio, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of Copilots.
There's a lot of Copilot, Yeah, I agree. So, Sarah, I'll probably stop sharing and maybe I'll take more questions.
Yeah, cool. I was just wondering, James has popped up. You usually have a question when you turn your camera on, or did you?
No, I don't know. No question. I just really enjoyed the chat. Thank you very much. That was really good. Copilot is something I really want to try and dive into. So I'm going to be emulating what you've done and go through some learning exercise. I think it was really good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would suggest is if you go to YouTube and there's a principal program manager. I think his nickname is Copilot Studio Dude.
Yeah.
So most of the demo that I did today, and I met him in person. His name is Devin. So he's doing a lot of these Copilot short videos. If you have not tried it and you're starting today, I would recommend you go there. And also, I think if you go to GitHub today, there's a Copilot lab that PowerCat team has put together. So I feel that, and again, if you have seen my slide deck, there was a QR code there, which hopefully Sarah will share the slide deck to people. That has all the links there which you need to follow. But I felt the Copilot lab and the Copilot YouTube YouTube of Copilot Tude is too interesting point to get started with.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. I guess I do have a question. Just come up with one. When you're extracting information from documents and from SharePoint in those documents, does it matter? Have you found if the documents are in a certain structure? Does that help?
No, I think what I found is, again, some of the people who are complaining is like, if I have a SharePoint site and if I upload like 100+ document, it is not doing like unification. So suppose if I am asking about Copilot and that Copilot word is there in 10, so it doesn't reference all of that and does like a Gen AI summary on this. It basically picks a few and then skips it. So Microsoft is aware about it, but what they are also saying is like, don't think like Copilot will solve your data problems. You probably have to. So another tip I would say that Copilot will not solve any of your data problems. Before you expose any data, the responsibility lies with people who are implementing it. First of all, you need to be DLP compliant as to what you are exposing as a connector in a Copilot Studio. Second thing, what you are exposing data, right? For SharePoint, obviously, if you have like a very sensitive information before exposing, again, obviously, the good thing about Copilot it does is basically because it is now bound by intra ID. So what you have permission on, it is only going to show you. But what if your SharePoint, if you have not managed that, like you have exposed all those information about salary details or some details which you should not have done it. Maybe in the past, what used to happen is people didn't have a tool to mine that information. So they were at less risk, but now with Copilot or M36 Copilot has an access to it. If you have not done your site security and all those data security compliance, and you've exposed it, and if somebody has built it, it is going to bring up all this information. So I would suggest is before you start building it, there's a lot to think about what I'm trying to build, who are the audience, what kind of questions. So in fact, I'm also seeing that people are leveraging like how in app we build like we mock up using a Figma or stuff. So what I also recommend when you're starting like a Copilot project for a customer, you almost map out what would be your conversational journey, like what question they can ask, and what if they ask a question which you don't want them to answer. How do we create some fallback so that rather than say apologies, I can't answer this, please refer to. So we should implement all those safety checks. If you don't do that, then it's dependent on what Copilot can.
It's all about isn't it? Yeah. Go on, sorry, John.
That was a good use case for using Excel as well. I did a Power Virtual Agent chatbot and did exactly that. Like, kind of went through exactly what the topics need to do and where they go to, where they move to, and stuff. Yeah.
It's an exciting tool, and I feel that that's the only tool in the last 1 year which has got many updates. So in fact, at Power Platform conference, their sessions were like only they're talking about Copilot, and, and I think they're investing a lot, but hopefully we'll see much more features rolled out, because I never in my last 18 years I haven't seen any Power Virtual Agent deployed in production, but I'm now seeing Copilot Studio being deployed, which is a welcome change, because I was always using like proof of concept, as John, you were mentioning that, Excel, do this, do that, and also used to have like 20 topics and stuff. But now with this Gen AI bit and conversational boosting that they have added, I feel it is ready, but obviously there are a lot of things to be, tested before it could be rolled out in production.
Security is coming up more and more actually on these sessions around, because everything's AI related one way or another.
I think there's a whole governance now for COEs. I think what I'm finding is, again, there are two kind of organizations who are like pretty brand new, they don't know. So I think there are a lot of envisioning needs to be done before it could be rolled out and opened up. And also people who are already ahead of the curve, they've already, in fact, M365 is pretty much available for people to try. The good thing they're doing is they're joining the dots between M365 and Copilot Studio, because traditionally they were like two different tangents. Because people who develop there, and again, if you talk to them, they have a very different scenarios. Now they're connecting all of that using Copilot Studio, which is quite interesting. And you can do that at one place rather than doing it like build a plugin, import it. It was quite difficult and not manageable. So I feel we are at the right stage, and it is being added to all the first party Copilot as well, like your dynamics, finance and operations, sales, customer service, and all of that. When you want to extend it, it will open up in Copilot Studio. So which is quite good.
I think Copilot Studio has just been very good at just exposing all of the different security issues that people have just sort of left to security through obscurity. Nobody knows that the HR salary Excel spreadsheet is hanging around on a SharePoint list somewhere until Copilot services it up and like, oh, we actually now need to start thinking about this and doing it properly. So let's actually start to implement that and do some railroading and just try and get things tidy, get our data warehouse in order. And as soon as you start doing that, okay, well, let's do it actually properly and get all of our data in order so that AI can consume it effectively, so it doesn't hallucinate as much as it might well do. Let's get all of our information structured, and then you can start doing some really amazing things.
Agreed.
But security and data structure is their first step.
Arati was talking about, how there's going to be so much more synthetic data for this reason. I saw this week, for the first time, I've seen an AI manager role at an end user. So it's a COE for AI. So that was interesting. It looked like quite a cool role, actually. But
managing co-pilots instead of people.
Yeah.
I think you need to change your tone. Sorry, I'll be more formal.
Just have several AI agents as your direct reports instead.
Be less emotional, I think.
Sarah, I had an idea, which is always a bit risky.
Oh,
but I was just thinking, that there's so much stuff happening in this space, and I don't know if anyone's played with this. There's this thing called Suno AI, which allows you to create synthetic AI generated music, and I was quite surprised. It's quite good. But
is this what you've been doing on TikTok, John?
No. But I was just wondering. I think there'll be a time where you could potentially create a Copilot agent or someone that is based on, say, Einstein, right? And then you have a chat with Einstein on a video call. I don't think it's that far away.
No,
I don't think it's that far away.
I mean, I was listening to that Power Platform Boost with Nick And I think in one of the posts he mentioned that there is a AI tool where I think he created a blog post first, and then you fed that blog post. And what happens is it creates a video of like two-person having a chat about it. And the voiceover was so natural
way.
that you can't actually figure out. It's like there are two people talking about as if it's something like he was saying that maybe I'll be out of these podcasts because I would have these agents doing this for
I was
me.
going to say I've played around with it. It's Google.
Is
It's
it?
from Google.
Okay.
It's Notebook LM.
Notebook. Okay.
Literally, you just feed it a URL. So I gave it the controls document from the Microsoft website. The Microsoft Learn documentation page on controls. The driest, dullest thing I could find. Like, go on, AI, make this an interesting podcast. It was genuinely surprisingly good. Yeah, it was two slightly irritating American accented people talking about the mind-blowing implementations of the button controls, and it was talking about how the properties of controls were a little bit like the color of the wall, the paint you're going to paint your wall and stuff like that. It was fantastic. It was like I just fed it, clicked a button, and 10 minutes later I had a 15-minute podcast to listen to about controls. It's like, cool, okay.
You have to pay for that.
Sorry?
You have to pay for it.
No, it's free. Go
John's
to
even
notebooklm.google.com now, and you'll be able to feed it something and go play with it.
I'm already on it.
It's unbelievably like, oh, okay, cool. I won't bother doing a podcast. I'll just
Fake it. God, we're exposed to this stuff, aren't we? So it's like, it's surprising to us that are in, a community where we hear about it, and you guys are in jobs doing it. And then I always just think, if I try to explain this to my mum, she'd be shocked. So yeah.
I mean, you say we're in jobs doing it. I'm not in a job doing it at the minute. Like, this is just far and away and above what clients are actually wanting right now. Yes, we want to be able to make podcasts and be able to do everything. Mm-hmm. What's your data like?
Yeah.
Oh, let's dial it back down to the data, shall we? Yes, you can't do anything yet. Let's boost it up again.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Has anyone got anything else to add to that? I know Cheryl's asked for the recording. Cheryl, you're still on, I think. I'll get that to you tomorrow. And Charlie joined a bit later as well, I think, so I'll send it out to you both directly.
Yeah, sorry. Well, we had EE try to fix our broadband, so and then that went off into a conversation about how I could get the EE guy into the Microsoft Pair Up program. So apologies, Sumit, and we will catch the recording. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm here to blame Cheryl for me not being here too. She wouldn't get off the phone.
You're involved in that, Charlie.
Yeah.
Hoping to see some of you next week in Aberdeen. Looking forward to that. So just trying to finalise outfits and things now. There's a few funny WhatsApp groups going on, I'm sure. There's a few others in those. But thanks, Sumit. Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to have you.
And thanks for everyone who's come.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Take care.